Section 45 of English Synonyms and Antonyms. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Mario Pineda. English Synonyms and Antonyms by James Champlin Fernald. Oath to Oversight. Oath. Synonyms: adjuration, affidavit, anathema, ban, blaspheming, blasphemy, curse, cursing, denunciation, execration, imprecation, malediction, profane swearing, profanity, reprobation, swearing, sworn statement, vow. In the highest sense, as in a court of justice, an oath is a reverent appeal to God in corroboration of what one says. Abbott Law Dictionary. An affidavit is a sworn statement made in writing in the presence of a competent officer. An adjuration is a solemn appeal to a person in the name of God to speak the truth. An oath is made to man in the name of God, a vow to God without the intervention, often without the knowledge of man. In the lower sense, an oath may be mere blasphemy or profane swearing. Anathema, curse, execration, and imprecation are modes of invoking vengeance or retribution from a superhuman power upon the person against whom they are uttered. Anathema is a solemn ecclesiastical condemnation of a person or of a proposition. Curse may be just and authoritative as the curse of God, or it may be wanton and powerless. So the curse causeless shall not come. Proverbs 26:2. Execration expresses most of personal bitterness and hatred. Imprecation refers especially to the coming of the desired evil upon the person against whom it is uttered. Malediction is a general wish of evil, a less usual but very expressive word. Compare testimony. Antonyms: benediction, benison, blessing. Obscure. Synonyms: abstruse, ambiguous, cloudy, complex, complicated, dark, darksome, deep, dense, difficult, dim, doubtful, dusky, enigmatical, hidden, incomprehensible, indistinct, intricate, involved, muddy, mysterious, profound, turbid, unintelligible. That is obscure, which the eye or the mind cannot clearly discern or see through, whether because of its own want of transparency, its depth or intricacy, or because of mere defect of light. That which is complicated is likely to be obscure, but that might be obscure which is not at all complicated and scarcely complex as a muddy pool. In that which is abstruse, Latin abs, from, and trudo, push, as if removed from the usual course of thought or out of the way of apprehension or discovery, the thought is remote, hidden. In that which is obscure there might be nothing to hide. It is hard to see to the bottom of the profound because of its depth, but the most shallow turbidness is obscure. Compare complex, dark, difficult, mysterious. Antonyms. See synonyms for clear. Obsolete. Synonyms: ancient, antiquated, archaic, disused, obsolescent, old, out of date, rare. Some of the oldest or most ancient words are not obsolete, as father, mother, etc. A word is obsolete which has quite gone out of reputable use. A word is archaic which is falling out of reputable use, or on the other hand, having been obsolete, is taken up tentatively by writers or speakers of influence, so that it might perhaps regain its position as a living word. A word is rare if there are few present instances of its reputable use. Compare old. Antonyms. See synonyms for new. Obstinate. Synonyms: contumacious, decided, determined, dogged, firm, fixed, headstrong, heady, immovable, indomitable, inflexible, intractable, mulish, obdurate, opinionated, persistent, pertinacious, refractory, resolute, resolved, stubborn, unconquerable, unflinching, unyielding. The headstrong person is not to be stopped in his own course of action, while the obstinate and stubborn is not to be driven to another's way. The headstrong act, the obstinate and stubborn may simply refuse to steer. The most amiable person may be obstinate on some one point. The stubborn person is for the most part habitually so. We speak of obstinate determination, stubborn resistance. Stubborn is the term most frequently applied to the lower animals and inanimate things. Refractory implies more activity of resistance. The stubborn horse balks. The refractory animal plunges, rears, and kicks. Metals that resist ordinary processes of reduction are termed refractory. One is obdurate, who adheres to his purpose in spite of appeals that would move any tender-hearted or right-minded person. Contumacious refers to a proud and insolent defiance of authority, as of the summons of a court. pertinacious demand is contrasted with obstinate refusal. The unyielding conduct which we approve can call decided, firm, inflexible, resolute. That which we condemn we are apt to term headstrong, obstinate, stubborn. Compare perverse. Antonyms: amenable, complacent, compliant, docile, dutiful, gentle, irresolute, obedient, pliable, pliant, submissive, teachable, tractable, undecided, wavering, yielding. Obstruct. Synonyms: arrest, bar, barricade, check, choke, clog, embarrass, hinder, impede, interrupt, oppose, retard, stay, stop. To obstruct is literally to build up against. The road is obstructed by fallen trees. The passage of liquid through a tube is obstructed by solid deposits. We may hinder one's advance by following and clinging to him. We obstruct his course by standing in his way or putting a barrier across his path. Anything that makes one's progress slower, whether from within or from without, impedes. An obstruction is always from without. To arrest is to cause to stop suddenly. Obstructing the way might have the effect of arresting progress. Compare hinder, impediment. Antonyms: accelerate, advance, aid, clear, facilitate, forward, free, further, open, pave the way for, promote. Old. Synonyms: aged, ancient, antiquated, antique, decrepit, elderly, gray, hoary, immemorial, olden, patriarchal, remote, senile, time-honored, time-worn, venerable. That is term old which has existed long or which existed long ago. Ancient, from the Latin through the French, is the more stately; old, from the Saxon, the more familiar word. Familiarity on one side is near to contempt. Thus we say an old coat, an old hat. On the other hand, familiarity is akin to tenderness, and thus old is a word of endearment, as the old homestead, the old oaken bucket. Tell me the old story has been sung feelingly by millions. Tell me that ancient story would remove it out of all touch of human sympathy. Olden is a statelier form of old, and is applied almost exclusively to time, not to places, buildings, persons, etc. As regards periods of time, the familiar are also the near, those the old times are not too far away from familiar thought and reference. The olden times are more remote, ancient times are still further removed. Gray, hoary, and moldering refer to outward and visible tokens of age. Aged applies chiefly to long extended human life. Decrepit, gray, and hoary refer to the effects of age on the body exclusively. Senile upon the mind also, as a decrepit frame, senile garrulousness. One may be aged and neither decrepit nor senile. Elderly is applied to those who have passed middle life, but scarcely reached old age. Remote, Latin re, back or away, and movio, move, primarily refers to space, but is extended to that which is far off in time, as at some remote period. Venerable expresses the involuntary reverence that we yield to the majestic and long enduring, whether in the material world or in human life and character. Compare antique, obsolete, primeval. Antonyms. Compare synonyms for new, youthful. Operation. Synonyms: action, agency, effect, execution, force, influence, performance, procedure, result. Operation is action considered with reference to the thing acted upon, and may apply to the action of an intelligent agent or of a material substance or force, as the operation of a medicine. Performance and execution denote intelligent action, considered with reference to the actor or to that which he accomplishes. Performance accomplishing the will of the actor, execution often the will of another. We speak of the performance of a duty, the execution of a sentence. Compare act. Antonyms: failure, inaction, ineffectiveness, inefficiency, inutility, powerlessness, uselessness. Order. Synonyms: command, direction, injunction, instruction, mandate, prohibition, requirement. Instruction implies superiority of knowledge, direction of authority on the part of the giver. A teacher gives instructions to his pupils, an employer gives directions to his workmen. Order is still more authoritative than direction. Soldiers, sailors, and railroad employees have simply to obey the orders of their superiors without explanation or question. An order in the commercial sense has the authority of the money which the one ordering the goods pays or is to pay. Command is of a loftier word, as well as highly authoritative, less frequent in common life. We speak of the commands of God, or sometimes by polite hyperbole ask of a friend, "Have you any commands for me?" A requirement is imperative but not always formal, nor made by a personal agent. It may be in the nature of things, as the requirements of the position. Prohibition is wholly negative. It is a command not to do. Injunction is now often so used, especially as the requirement by legal authority that certain action be suspended or refrained from pending final legal decision. Compare array, class, law, prohibit, system. Antonyms: allowance, consent, leave, liberty, license, permission, permit. Ostentation. Synonyms: boast, boasting, display, flourish, pageant, pageantry, parade, pomp, pomposity, pompousness, show, bount, bunting. Ostentation is an ambitious showing forth of whatever is thought adapted to win admiration or praise. Ostentation may be without words, as the ostentation of wealth in fine residences, rich clothing, costly equipage, or the like, when in words ostentation is rather in manner than in direct statement, as the ostentation of learning. Boasting is in direct statement, and is louder and more vulgar than ostentation. There might be great display or show with little substance. Ostentation suggests something substantial to be shown. Pageant, pageantry, parade, and pomp refer principally to affairs of arms or state, as a royal pageant, a military parade. Pomp is some material demonstration of wealth and power, as in grand and stately ceremonial, rich furnishings, processions, etc., considered as worthy of the person or occasion in whose behalf it is manifested. Pomp is the noble side of that which as ostentation is considered as arrogant and vain. Pageant and pageantry are inferior to pomp, denoting a spectacular display designed to impress the public mind, and since the multitude is largely ignorant and thoughtless, the words pageant and pageantry have a suggestion of the transient and unsubstantial. Parade, Latin paro, prepare, is an exhibition as of troops in camp, going through the evolutions that are to be used in battle, and suggests lack of earnestness and direct or immediate occasion or demand. Hence, in the more general sense, a parade is an uncalled for exhibition, and so used is a more disparaging word than ostentation. Ostentation may spring merely from undue self-gratulation. Parade implies a desire to embrace others with a sense of one's abilities or resources, and is always offensive and somewhat contemptible, as a parade of wealth and learning. Pomposity and pompousness are the affectations of pomp. Antonyms: diffidence, modesty, quietness, reserve, retirement, shrinking, timidity, unobtrusiveness. Ought. Synonym: should. One ought to do that which he is under moral obligation or in duty bound to do. Ought is the stronger word, holding most closely to the sense of moral obligation, or sometimes of imperative logical necessity. Should might have the sense of moral obligation, and may apply merely to propriety or expediency, as in the proverb, "The liar should have a good memory," that is, he will need it. Ought is sometimes used of abstractions or inanimate things as indicating what the mind deems to be imperative or logically necessary in view of all the conditions, as these goods ought to go into that space. These arguments ought to convince him. Should in such connections would be correct, but less emphatic. Compare duty. Oversight. Synonyms: care, charge, command, control, direction, inspection, management, superintendence, supervision, surveillance, watch, watchfulness. A person may look over a matter in order to survey it carefully in its entirety, or he may look over it with no attention to the thing itself because his gaze and thought are concentrated on something beyond. Oversight has thus two contrasted senses, in the latter sense denoting inadvertent error or omission, and in the former denoting watchful supervision, commonly implying constant personal presence. Superintendence requires only so much of presence or communication as to know that the superintendent's wishes are carried out. The superintendent of a railroad will personally oversee very few of his operations. The railroad company has supreme direction of all its affairs without superintendence or oversight. Control is used chiefly with reference to restraint or the power of restraint. A good horseman has a restless horse under perfect control. There is no high character without self-control. Surveillance is an ambiguous term signifying watching with something of suspicion. Compare care, neglect. End of section 45.